Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
응답하라 여친. Go to the into the she.
Back to the count to the Jew. Hey. So Jane.
Yes.
I made you watch a show.
You did.
Actually, that happens a bit, right?
Yes.
Because you're like, do I want to watch this? But we had heard all the talks about the 7M cult.
I was not familiar at all with the 7M chatter, but I was familiar with the creators involved in that.
Yes. And people kept asking me, right, on my TikToks and social media, like, are you going to talk about 7M? And I was like, why the fuck do you want me to talk about this cult that has these like white TikTokers?
Let's back up and explain like what 7M is. They're a dance, a management company or a film.
Why are they called 7M?
I think their name is 7M Films.
Yeah, so it's a multimedia management company. And there was chatter.
Huge dancers.
Yes. And all those creators that were under them seem to have like 2-3 million followers.
Very big followers.
So
big brand deals.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was hearing the chatter. Oh my gosh, did you watch this Netflix? You need to watch this Netflix documentary on the 7M cult.
So the Netflix documentary is called Dancing for the Devil.
Okay, that name, I was like, oh, this is,
And then the TikTok 7M cult.
Yeah, and then I kept seeing flashes of what people are talking about, and it was like always like these white girls dancing, and I'm like, I don't know about dancing TikToks, and that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I found it surprising that people kept asking me my opinion. And I was like, why? So I finally looked into it, and it's a Korean cult.
A cult led by a Korean man.
And if there's one thing, well, there's multiple things Korea is known for: K-pop, Korean food, all that, but also cults.
Cult culture.
You get sucked into a cult. It's a known thing.
It's a known thing. And the second I mentioned it to Ben, I said, TikTok, cult, Korean past. He's like, say no more.
He said, we got to watch it now.
We're watching it now.
I knew it. I knew when I mentioned it to you, I said, and you were like, I think I heard about it. We both were like, And then I was like, Jane, it's a Korean pastor. And you were like, what? And they were like, watching it right now. I was like, okay, I am shocked because when I think of Korean cults, I think exclusively Korean people.
Right. In terms of the followers.
Yeah,
right?
because
the members of that cult.
And this is a very Korean man.
Very Korean man.
Ajashi, how does this Korean ajashi, a grown old man, pull these white TikTokers? In my mind, I'm like, how did this happen? How did he really went beyond, his Korean box.
He really did.
And that honestly, I know it's terrible, but it's actually pretty amazing.
pretty amazing. I mean, truly, you listen. So this documentary is interviews with former members of that cult, and they do like confessionals and interviews and stuff. And a couple of them talk about those early days. I think like they were invited by friends. And they said that this pastor, Robert Shin, clearly had or was inspired by Black church.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there was some kind of charismatic quality.
Yes. They always do, right?
There.
Yes.
And, I struggle to see what his charisma is.
I know. I was like, when I look at him, he looked like an old ajashi that that in the street go.
Yeah. But clearly he was very in tune with what was trending. And he has a son that's
also
kind of
like a producer,
Gen Z kind of age. So
he could bridge the gap.
Yes. And can I tell you, so a lot of these creators I was familiar with from back in 2020, 21.
Wow.
And the sisters that get,
did you know the sisters before you watched it?
I did, because I knew them as the Wilking sisters.
You did? I didn't know them. Okay.
And they both had long hair at the time.
Yeah.
And they would do like dance videos, like dance trends. And then one day I started seeing them separately on my FYP. And then all the comments on those videos what happened to you guys.
Isn't that so fascinating to watch it from the perspective of like, oh, yes. I know who they're talking. I remember seeing all of this.
We're living in an age where you can see a documentary on something that's happening in real time.
Isn't that weird?
And it's weird. It's weird because, I'm not involved at all. Like you're totally an outsider, but there's almost this other dimension because we are on TikTok, we are familiar with who's involved, and then you're getting this other perspective and story.
It's so current.
It's
like
so
right
current
now.
Yes. And it's like that prime example of real life being stranger than fiction.
Yeah.
I'm watching this unfold, and I thought they did it from a storytelling aspect. That documentary delivers.
It was short, which I loved.
Yeah.
Only 3 episodes. I'm like, this is a time commitment I can make. And efficient. And the sermon that they would play.
Yes.
Oh my God, that was creepy as fuck.
Sermon excerpts.
Yeah.
Where, you hear the leader's voice.
Yeah, he's like,
and stuff,
they're coming for us now. Did you hear? They're talking about us in the media. The family has spoken
relishing
I'm like,
in that. In the attention.
Wow. How did they? I will say. So the question, because Korean cults are such a known thing to us.
Yes.
Why do you think Korean cults are such a thing? Like within our own people, in your opinion?
That's a really, really good question.
Because I've been thinking that the reason this happens to our people, well, I mean, it happens in every culture. Like
it does.
There's Christianity, Mormons. It's not as extreme and stuff,
It does.
But for our people, I think we're especially susceptible to it because our culture is built on getting acceptance from the community. Like, and we have
being a part of something.
Yeah, you're not anything on your own. You have to be representing your people. Like even historically, we're like, we the Korean people, and it's a sense of like I think white people have that individualistic approach, or American concept is to look out for the individual. In Korea and a lot of Asian cultures, it's about like, you represent the family, you're a face of our community.
Yes.
So if you don't belong, there's so much shame.
Yeah.
And they're able to get you in these cults because if you feel lost or if you don't feel like you have someone,
belonging. It offers you belonging.
Instantly creates a home. And I think that I would have been someone like that, susceptible to exactly that. And that's what they prey on, right?
Yes. And so there are two other former members featured in that documentary who have nothing to do with the TikTok or social media world. So they were early members of this Shekinah church. Yeah. And they're two Korean girls, sisters, who did not have a good home life.
Yeah.
Did not have good relationship with their parents.
The dad
found
was basically
belonging at church.
The dad was basically like deadbeat.
Yeah.
The mom also kind of abandoned them, right? And then it became like the older sister raising the younger sister.
Yeah, which is an incredible burden. But then they find this church.
Yeah.
And there's a place where they're both taken care of.
Yeah.
And they can be
instantly feel home.
Yes.
And feel like they belong. And I'm sure at a part like they were thriving, but when they give those flashes of them being at church, didn't it remind you of your youth group days?
Oh yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that just looks like any Korean church.
It does.
It doesn't scream cult.
And that's what makes it so sinister.
Yes.
And then, so it's like you're in this space. I mean, you don't question belonging in a church community.
Right. And even one of the friends was like, oh, she's going to church.
Yeah.
That's good.
Who would question?
Yeah.
And then other things come out, like the structure of the church, where the pastor is at the top and considered quote, man of God.
Oof, wow.
And so any interaction with him is considered an honor, a privilege. It's limited. You can't ever go directly to him. You have like a whole network of mentors and people that you have to get through first.
And Koreans love that shit.
Yes, hierarchy.
It seems to, like, in our culture, make people feel like they know who they are. It's like a security thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's even a Korean drama called Hierarchy, like know your place. It's like a big thing.
Yeah.
And people somehow find comfort in having a position.
Yes.
Yeah, knowing exactly
where
they
you stand, knowing what is expected of you. Yeah. What was hard for me, I think, in that documentary was see that transition between, this guy leading a church, I presume predominantly Korean American, to then getting access to all these huge TikTok creators where he finds this opportunity to kind of capitalize on.
And the
on
way
their
he,
success.
like, I think they were recapping how he did it. And he's like, basically, like, he was like, I have a church. I can run your management company. Like,
he was so interested.
Yeah.
Interested in, so a few of them came.
Yeah.
Right? And then
one of them was like, oh, I don't like my management company. He's like, I can do that.
But why would you?
Right. So the idea that this man is a pastor, has a church, he's like, wait a minute, I can apply my church skills to be your manager. But that's how money is happening in his brain, right?
Yes.
He sees the capitalistic access. And so ultimately he always knew his church was a business. So to us it sounded weird, right?
Yeah.
But in his mind he's like, I operate this church. I bring money in, money out. I can totally do that for managing talent.
I mean, he was a hustler for
Such
sure.
a hustler.
And, what's sinister and so cunning is that was smart. He had the foresight. He's like, I'm going to capitalize on this. Management companies in social media typically take 20%.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to get these big creators, get them big deals.
And he did get them big deals.
Then you know exactly how much they're bringing
car
in.
Deals. They were
20% he keeps. Then they have to also tithe. So like they did the 10-10-10.
Yeah,
right?
Oh my God. They're left with nothing.
Yeah, nothing. So in the end, they were getting maybe 30% of what they were bringing in.
Yeah. I
the fact that they were living in the properties owned by this guy too.
It's like those K-pop trainee houses.
No, really.
Yeah, because that's how they raise you all up in the house. They say that everything we provide for you is value.
Yeah.
So you're basically getting so much from us. Of course, we're just gonna take your pay.
Right.
But when we were talking about the Korean people being susceptible and how he's able to approach, they're big creators, they're big creative agents, but it's because they're artists, right?
Yes.
And because they're artists that are insecure about how to make money.
We see them as, oh my gosh, they're so successful.
Right.
They're raking in, the money and the deals. But at the time that they were, they came to the church and stuff, they were artists not able to lean fully into that dream.
Yeah.
And this was the opportunity that they got to
and
do
when
that.
you have a creative mind, you just want to create. You just want to do like what you're good at.
Yeah.
And then like the money and
you
it's
don't
very stressful.
It is.
You know it better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we know firsthand like dealing with the money stuff, the deadlines. It's like, let me just do the fun thing.
Creatives,
that
they don't
I enjoy.
do it for the money to begin with, right?
So when someone comes along and say, well, let me take care of all the things that you're not good at, all the tedious details.
Let us take care of you, you know?
You just do what you're good at and I'll take care of the rest. That would seem like a godsend.
Yes, right? And it's, I think some of them speak to this. This was at a church. I never would have thought it would be
the blind trust.
That I was in an unsafe position ever.
Yeah.
So blind trust, just assuming good intent all around. And then what I thought was so interesting was I remember that guy, so Robert Shin's son, Isaiah.
Yeah.
I remember his name because on some of these videos, TikTok videos, there's a little credit, video credit.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, Shin sounds Korean. I'm like, wow, good for this guy.
Wow.
And I was like, their production quality is amazing.
Yeah. And that was the duo that made it work because his father's a businessman and then he's a media guy and he was able to produce quality, like looking, you know, content videos. And so when you, and that's the other thing, when you're an artist and you're naturally good at dancing, but doesn't mean there's technicalities that technical skills that you're good at, like uploading a video. Even for us, we're like, oh my God, I don't want to do transitions. It's like,
so I can't imagine. It's like you had like a full in-house like company doing everything for you.
All you have to do is do what you're good at. Just dance. And then you're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to stress. And then they line up all the work for you. I mean, I can see.
And at the same time, you're being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Right? With, you know, you need to be loyal to us. You need to start, you know, cutting ties with your family, which is like another wild thing.
Yeah. And your significant other, your partner.
Your significant other.
You can't leave. And
we're
then,
the priority. Yeah. Right. And then it was all under, you know, you're serving God.
Yeah.
God is your priority.
That also, I think, really hits the nerve that what people are seeking is to believe that they're good.
You're
you know?
Right. Yeah.
And I remember the Korean sister, the one that couldn't leave initially, Priscilla, talking about basically he would literally say, you're going to go to hell. If you want to be a good person, you have to be loyal to me and you have to cut off everybody else and show, you know. And she repeatedly would say, I just wanted to know that I'm good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And how terrifying is that for him to say, you know, just because you believe in God does not guarantee that you won't go to hell.
It was like, wait, is he saying that he's above God? Yeah. That's what it sounded like repeatedly. He's like, yeah, you can believe in God, but that's not enough.
You die today and then you'll go to hell.
Through me.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow. I mean, that right there.
Yeah.
Glaring cult.
Yeah.
But they were all too in it, too deep.
What was the sisters, the Wilkins?
The dancing sisters. Yeah, the Wilkins.
They had their own, like, fame.
Yes, they did.
They probably were making, I mean, it sounded like from the sister that's not in the cult, we're doing well.
But then one of them goes to LA to pursue dance and all of that.
And then gets a boyfriend that's also,
who was already, I think, kind of in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then oh my God, I teared up when I saw the parents.
Yeah.
And they're trying to like, well, we don't, the sister's like, this is all fake. We're not making, I mean.
The parents they're just happy to have.
Yeah. They're like, what's the alternative? Yeah. We don't get to see her.
Yeah.
This is at least we get to see her face. And then the sister's like, but she's like a robot when she's around us. She doesn't even get to be herself.
Yeah. Like it's all for show.
Yeah. And we're just only pleasing that man.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, she's really is
smart.
done.
Yeah. And she was smart to get out of there and kind of know like, oh no, like, and just call BS right from the beginning.
Yeah. Why would I not be allowed to go?
Right.
Yeah. They were like, come right now. Don't take your friend to the airport.
I really need you to listen to the message.
I'm so glad
so can you turn around and come to the church? And she was like,
excuse me, who are you?
Yeah.
What? That's like a normal.
That's
just
the normal response. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're both from one family, and she clearly has a strong head on her shoulder.
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, love, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll blind you to certain things.
Love will blind you.
Which is so sad.
Yeah.
So sad.
They had built such a brand of their own.
Yeah.
I
just took it to, I would see all the chatter and stuff, and I just thought, well, one went to pursue her dream of dancing, and then so there was some kind of falling out or
Yeah,
a drifting
it kind of
apart
seemed like that at the
because
maybe there was jealousy,
or like
then
there was
she
some
went
kind of
there.
a fork in the road where one sister went one way.
Oh, you mean before the documentary?
Before the documentary came out. That's what I thought was,
wow.
you know, and then she met this guy and they're I just thought she's thriving, and then
so good for that family to blow the lid off and go on live.
Yeah.
That's what triggered the massive response. And wow, the power of social media.
Yeah.
Because that's all it took. It was like, okay, the family decided to go, you know what? We're going to go live about this because we don't know how to get help from the police anymore. So we're just going to tell you the reason one of the sisters is missing is because she is involved in this company and we think it's a cult. It's like,
boom. Yeah.
But what was scary is like, wait, but is this person an adult or a child? And they're like, this is an adult. Oh, okay. So she is doing this of free will.
Free will. And that is not, you can't do it. There's no legal grounds.
Yeah.
To do anything.
That's so scary.
It is very scary. And then what was just all too obvious was how he was preying on women.
Yeah.
How Robert was preying on women the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like, of course, right?
Yeah.
If you are, it's just like, did you watch the other documentary about Korean cults?
No, there's another one.
It was a much more lengthy one, but they do a series. Over the series, they do like 4 different cults.
Did you watch it?
I did, and it was so.
What are
repulsive.
the takeaways from that to this?
The takeaways was all of them except for one cult was led by men. One was led by a woman, but they were all like Korean men who inflated egos, right? And all preyed on women.
Yeah,
with this God complex.
Yes, and Korean misogyny is just so ingrained in our culture that I think Korean women, I hate to admit it, but I think a lot of Korean women it gets it activated in them. Internal misogyny. We're like, oh, this Korean man says this and this, I should follow. It's almost like an autopilot thing.
Yeah.
Because even our parents, they're like, oh, you gotta, grow up to be a woman that is marriageable material. We've heard that.
Yeah.
And
wife
that's
material.
misogyny.
Yeah.
We can't be our own individuals. We have to envision our growing path to lead us to be marriageable material. Like, how fucked up is
desirable?
That? Yeah, like make sure that you go to school, go for your career and do all that, but above all, also make yourself a good package to be, wife material. Ultimately to beckon to a man.
Yeah.
And I felt for that Priscilla girl.
Yeah, the Korean sisters. And it was the sister Priscilla that was in it for longer, 23 years.
What's interesting, it's the younger one that started going there.
Yeah.
And then she was hesitant, but then she was like, it's a church.
Yeah.
And then she became more intertwined. But that conversation that they had at the window.
The 2 sisters.
Yeah, where the younger one is like, I need you to tell me.
I need you to communicate.
Yeah, like accountability. Why weren't you there early? And then she's like, I am not normal.
I'm dysfunctional.
Yeah, I'm the messed up sister you have. That's who I am. And I thought, wow, that
conversation was really heartbreaking. It was hard for me to hear.
Yeah. It's very fascinating that there are these 2 sisters, 2 white sisters, 2 Korean sisters, and they're both like being torn apart. But, it's crazy that this religious cult man is breaking up these women.
Yeah.
That, you know, love each other so much, that are family. And all it takes is this like babbling ajushi.
This crazy man. Yeah. I know. It's crazy.
It just makes me.
And did you see their statement that they put on Instagram?
Who?
The 7M. 7M.
Oh, 7M?
Yeah.
Oh, I
in
didn't.
response
When
to
was
this documentary. I read it like last night.
Okay,
They posted it recently.
Because
in
this is right now.
Yeah, this is right now. But I mean, the language they use, they just said this is like an inflammatory, documentary full of lies, trying to bring us down. I mean,
how?
The comments are crazy. They're like, oh, okay. And then, of course, that documentary has all these incriminating quotes from the pastor himself.
Yeah, his directs. Yeah. What are you going to say about your direct sermon? Your words.
And what's wild to me is that I don't know how many women came forward saying that they had, unwanted sexual
advances
relations. Even rape, right? And that has not been enough to criminally charge.
I know. After watching this, it's still not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, and the most powerful defense is that these are grown people. They are by choice living in those circumstances and not leaving.
That part I get, right?
Yeah.
They're not, I think the crux of it is not like, oh, this guy convinced us to be in a cult. Because it's kind of like that's on you too, right?
Yeah.
But aren't there ways to make a criminal case?
Right.
For us, like, mismanagement of funds.
Yes.
You're a management company.
Like,
right? I don't know what
somebody,
kind of...
Who would it be? The
unless
IRS?
That was all baked into their contract, right? Like, as a member of 7M, we represent you. You are also a member of, the Shekinah Church.
What is Shekinah?
I don't know what it is. I thought it was
I went to look it up.
Hickey. Like, I thought it was Hickey.
It's not Seki.
I know. I thought it was from the Korean word.
I was like, wait, how did they come up? Is it a god?
I have no idea. Let's look it up.
You
look it up
curious?
now. Yeah, I am curious. I didn't
Take
have
a
time
guess.
to
Take a gander. It must be a religious name, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe.
7M.
I don't think they're the only church that use that name. So,
don't you know like biblical terms?
I know some.
Like, I didn't know that my brother's my nephew's name was biblical.
Oh, what is his name? What's your nephew's?
We call Eleazar.
Eleazar. Oh, okay.
That is not a Korean name.
No, it's not a common name. It's not like
I don't know
like
any
Moses.
other Korean child with the name Eleazar. But I call him Zarzar.
Zarzar. That's cute.
That's what I was gonna call him. Eli.
But this is your brother's kid.
Yeah,
your brother is going into ministry, right? Or he is in.
Yeah.
He wants to be a pastor, or he is a pastor.
Let me just say that my brother will never be a, knock on wood, Korean cult leader, even though he's going into Korean ministry, because he is the most uncharismatic person.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What was this guy's deal? Because he just gives me major ick.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you he would have given me ick if I knew nothing about him and I stepped into
just
his church.
Looking at him, because what could he say? Okay. Oh, Hebrew means, Shekinah means dwelling or presence.
Interesting.
In Jewish theology. Okay. Presence of God in the world.
So
Shekinah.
when I thought, okay, it's not Korean.
You thought it was Heki.
I thought at first, it was Korean. But then when it wasn't, I was like, okay, it's probably a Hebrew word, but I have never seen that.
I wasn't. Yeah,
yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, 새끼들아 나한테 와. 새끼들아.
I should be a voiceover actor. Don't you think I sounded like such a good villain right there? Like, 다들 모여서 기도해야 돼.
You sound like Dulli. Korean cartoon.
Dulli.
I know.
I watched Dulli in Korea. Is that what Dulli sounds like?
It sounds like one of those Dulli voices.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Very nasally. Okay, yes, it does sound Hebrew. So it means dwelling,
also
presence.
Korean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so sad. You know, it makes me think, I know this is not the way to feel good about yourself. But I'm like, damn, maybe I'm not that bad. Like honestly, when I heard the Korean girl's story, I was like, oh my God, I could have easily.
Their story, yeah.
My parents weren't around, and I had to take care of my brother. I had no friends. But if I told them I was going to church with a bunch of Korean people, they probably would have let me off the hook.
And that's not where it got weird. It's like once it got weird, they were in it too deep.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, it was Robert's sister, Catherine, kind of taking in these girls, right? And her family, that she kind of
she cut off from the church too.
Yeah, and then when all of this was coming out, she was like,
"You've been doing
I'm
what?
Out. Yeah, I'm out."
And then I thought what was funny was like in the beginning how he tried to also get into entertainment. He was really interested in the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And one of the his right-hand man is a good-looking Korean dude, right? And he was trying to get him into acting. He's like, That's didn't pan out.
Yeah, that didn't pan out. That went nowhere. So he always had a fascination with, he had some kind of Hollywood complex.
Let me be
aspiration. Yeah. He wanted to be
narcissist, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be a star.
Yeah, he wanted to be a star.
You know, I want to pull the strings. So he had grand ambitions.
He did.
But what did you think of when they like ambushed him at the
I
restaurant?
thought it was so eerie the way he had no reaction.
Yeah, it was like they
took the papers, like when he's being served, like, okay, and he just
every member in
put
that
it on
was
the
like
right.
blank stares.
Yeah.
How do you not say anything? Not a yelp, not a nothing. Like, this is just regular day for us eating Korean food. And when they were like, they're at this Korean restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, that was easy. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And the fact that the church doesn't, it's so secretive too. You have to be invited.
Oh,
like, what is that? There's no church like that, right? No.
You know, so I've gone to my share of Korean churches growing up. I stopped going to them after college because I was like, this shit is too cliquey.
Yeah.
I never could fit in. I couldn't fit in with the Koreans and I couldn't fit in with the Korean Americans. I was like this weird in between, and I just didn't vibe well in those. I always felt more left out.
Oh,
and that was the thing. Like, if you're in, they can make you feel like you're their whole life. But if you're not in, you can feel also so lonely in a church.
Yeah, which probably was like so hurtful because you're like, here's a place where, everybody should be able to fit in and find a place.
Yeah.
And you didn't feel that.
You know what it also reminds me of? There was a, I think he's a big named, I think you knew him or something, Eugene Cho?
Oh, yes.
He's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And he was my youth pastor at Onnuri when he was starting out. So they were like, oh, he's with us. And I remember being mesmerized by him. Like, I thought he was very charismatic when he was giving his sermons. And, back then, Onnuri, the youth service was like, the full studio. It wasn't. And then
where was it? In
Seattle.
Seattle.
Oh, in Linwood.
Okay.
And so he was only in charge of the youth ministry. And I'm just this kid. I'm like, oh, wow, he's so good. He's so amazing. And you're in this little, room for just the teenagers. And I felt so connected with him. And that was, I think, like when I was going through the hardest time in my life because I was getting in trouble. My stepmom in particular was at the height of her, like, domestic violence, like, rage. And then I would go to church and I would listen to his words and it was like soothing, like pain is temporary, whatever struggles you're dealing with, have your faith in God that better days are coming and all this stuff. And at the time it spoke to me greatly, right? So then I went to him afterwards. Like,
which takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, but I just was like, oh my God, like, he really spoke to me, turned off, like completely different person. So that man giving the sermon is this magic, charisma, stage person.
Yeah.
And then he got off the pulpit or whatever, and I'm walking along, like, asking questions, like, oh, I gotta go right now, okay? We'll talk later. Try asking someone else.
Oh my God.
It was just such, I was like, how old was I? Probably like the 15-year-old me was so just, wow. The sudden change.
Yeah. I mean, if you had took you down several notches, because you felt so spoken to, and then mustered up the courage to, then make another bid for connection, and then
to be like, whoa, like that is not the same person that was just. And of course, it's like no one can be one way 24/7.
Yeah.
But I think.
But yeah, so you learned early on there's a performance aspect to this.
Yes,
there is.
I mean, of course there is.
Yeah,
right? It makes sense.
Of course there is.
But at the time, I think because I was so moved by the message and felt like, is he talking to me? I'm lost right now. I need a lifeline.
Yeah.
And to go to him and feel such a cold, like almost like a door to my face. I mean, and I don't think that's fair for me to say that he could just be like having so much, of course, right? Their next meeting, I got to go do this and that. I get it now as an adult, but at the same time, I still was shocked at the night and day of it. Like, wow, that is. And then I realized, performative. Like, I
can see that.
Yeah, I don't believe in
how that would have been shocking to you. Yeah, I had a very realistic. I never understood why. I mean, I understood why culturally, but growing up in the Korean church, there's such a reverence, not just in Korean church, I've seen it in Black church too.
Right.
Like reverence for the minister, the pastor. And I was always, even as a kid, like they're just people.
I know.
Like,
you do that very
people,
much. Have you ever been starstruck?
No, I mean rarely. I mean there have been times where I've been excited to meet people.
Yeah.
But even then I'm like reminding myself like they're people.
Yeah.
Like,
no, but you are always so practical about that. And me, if I see even like I saw Mario Lopez and I was like, wow, Slater time, and the bitch was trying to not say hi to me. He was all cowering down. I'm like, are you serious, Mario? You're gonna try to hide in the corner? Who remembers you from Saved by the Bell? Me.
Okay, I have a funny story about that because now we're talking about like Korean church, but my dad, I thought he was the scariest person.
Yes.
He was not. I mean, he is a good dad.
Yeah.
But he was very strict.
Stern.
Like he was the last word in anything.
I think that's how my kids see.
He's just not like
no nonsense.
No nonsense. But I never thought of him as gentle or meek. No.
Yeah.
He was like But he was an elder at our church, the church that I grew up in, and then
교사님.
Yes, and he always 장로님, and then
장로님.
he taught in youth group. And when I went to church, all the older kids who are in youth group, when they find out that that's my dad, they would say, "You have the nicest dad ever." And that was my reaction. I'm like, "What? Me? Who, me?"
Can't be me.
He's the scariest person in the world. What are you They're like, does he ever get mad at you? And I was like, and I would come home and tell my parents this, like, you have no idea what so-and-so said to me today, Appa. They said, does he ever get mad? And he would just like,
Did he laugh?
Yeah, he would jokingly laugh it off. He's like, I don't know why they have that impression, you know?
Wow.
But like very early on, I'm like, these people are just people. And every time I would think about, so that.
Maybe that's it, your own parent. Your own parents are like, these parents of mine are not what you see.
Yeah, it's okay if they listen to this because they listen to us and they know this. But growing up, like I would hear that so much. And I was like, wow, you can really give a different impression to what your like closest people see you as, you know? I never thought my dad was like mean or whatever, right? But it's like, yeah, he was like a no-nonsense guy and he got mad at me plenty.
That's true. That's true. My mom, my stepmom, to her nieces was their funty.
Can't imagine.
And I'm like, huh? Why are you not fun with me? Like I'm like, how do they see this side of her? Because I resented it so much.
Yeah,
I'm like, how come I don't get that?
That can happen.
How can you be a great aunt but be so scary?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's harder to get away with that now because I'm realizing kids are just so much like smarter and more precocious. That they tell each other, you know, oh, my mom gets mad at me all the time. My mom, I cannot get away with it. I can't put one face and then, you know.
Oh, yeah. I feel, oh my God. And my kids call me out. When I raise my voice is like, why are you yelling, Mom?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's you know what Adana says? That's your mother's voice. She's just loud. They're so our children are the call out culture.
They do.
They stand on business.
I get frustrated with Ruby because she leaves her lunchbox like 4 out of 5 days of the week. She leaves it at school.
Dude.
Then the lunch gets all like nasty, right? And she brings it home 2 days later. So I'm always reminding her, bring your lunchbox home, bring your lunchbox home. I go to class to volunteer once a week, and then one of her friends comes to me and she goes, do you get mad at Ruby when she doesn't bring her lunch box home? I was so caught off guard. I said, no. I said, no, I don't get mad. I just, you know, I get frustrated when she leaves it. She's like, well, don't get upset at her.
Well, how did you feel in that moment, Jane?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, I can't. We can't.
You can't. You have no control over that girl.
No. They will call us out every chance.
She will tell the town all about it. Oh my gosh.
And those are probably my kids. Your mom is so nice. They're like, what? No.
Yeah, you are your father's daughter.
Yeah, it's coming back, back around to me. Yeah. My kids also know like what I truly think. Like, you know, when kids overstay their welcome and stuff, they're like always like looking at me.
Like, oh, like when mom's timer's gone.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like
one time they dropped off their friend and neighbor at their house, and then on the walk back, I don't know if they had even closed their door, but on the way back, they're chatting with each other. Oh, I hope mom doesn't get mad at us because we're coming home late because we played too much. And they make me sound like a monster.
They have no idea what we've lived through.
They have no idea.
My God, sometimes I look at these children.
We're no better than our parents. Our parents were the ones who were saying, you have no idea.
Minds. Yeah. In their minds.
Yeah.
Listen, I would love to show them playback of my childhood and be like, this is what I live with.
Your parents are so lucky that you were not sucked into a cult.
Yeah. I was cult material.
Yeah. I think if we were sisters, like you would have been the one to get sucked in and I would have been the one to come out. Like, no.
Me. Those sisters? Yeah. I'm Priscilla. I'm the broken one. Remember, you can't expect shit out of me. And then the other one's just like, I hear you. I feel you.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh. Well, we did survive Korean churches.
We did. We're on the other side.
You know, and I remember the church that we went to, every church that we go to, like some dysfunction happens. And one of the pastors was embezzling money.
Oh.
So that's a very common It's a common thing.
Yeah.
So we're survivors too, Jane. Way to make it about us. Good for us for not getting sucked into a cult. Yes. We are survivors. Yep, that's it. That's the takeaway today. Go forth, children.